Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Easterday, and welcome back to another episode of Eye of the Storm Astrology. So today I'm going to be doing a chart analysis of Joe Biden, the President of the United States currently, and looking at not only just his birth chart from a general overall perspective, but I'm going to be laying the foundation for a series that I'm going to be doing on his charts because as we have some transits coming up, especially in regards to the eclipses that are going to be happening in October, they're going to create a lot of pressure on his chart. In fact, I see some pretty potentially major life-changing events happen, even life-ending events being able to go on when we see how this eclipse is going to affect his chart. And he also has, beyond just the regular chart analysis, in regards to the study of yogas in Vedic astrology, he has a lot of very, very interesting and very strong yogas in his chart that can actually show why he's had such a long, successful career in politics. And, that's something I'll analyze in a future episode because there's really just a lot to see here with this chart. So we'll go ahead and get my screen share here and start diving into this. So first off, his date of birth is November 20th, 1942 at 8:30 in the morning, and he is born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Okay, so we have Joe Biden here being a Scorpio Lagna in the nakshatra of Anuruddha. Now, this is a very interesting one. He also has Sun and Venus here in Scorpio as well in Anuruddha nakshatra. So a few things we can see here. One is that Scorpio's a sign that's going to deal with hidden knowledge, secrets, strong passions, energy, sexual energy. These type of things are all themes that we see with Scorpio. Joe Biden, one of the things that he's very known for is being a very touchy type of person. Some of his relationships and the way he's had relationships with people have been brought into question more than a few times. This is definitely something we can see through this Lagna, and not just because he's a Scorpio Lagna, but specifically because of the nakshatra that it is falling into, Anuruddha, as well as the combination of Sun and Venus here. Anytime Sun and Venus are conjunct in a chart, or if you get you'll really see it come out with a Venus and Leo, or if there's like Sun and Venus and Leo, Mars energy there, that type of thing going on, a person can kind of become very controlling in regards to their relationships and things. So in Joe Biden's case, we'd see that there's control that's exerted, but it's exerted behind the scenes. It's done so in a secretive way. Now, the nakshatra of Anuruddha is ruled by the deity Mitra, who is the god of friendship. Mitra in the mythology actually wants to... He's a god of friendship to such a degree that he actually will become and form and mold into one being with his brother. That's something that we can see in the mythologies. In the same way, people with Anuruddha nakshatra, they can be very, very friendly. They want to connect with people. They don't want to be at a distance. They want to be close with the people. They want to touch them. In fact, Anuruddha, as a nakshatra, if it had a love language, it would be physical touch. So when we see this coming on in Lagna with Sun and Venus, Joe being in a state of authority, like as a president or as a politician, he's going to feel like he's entitled to be able to do those type of things and to be able to he's going after that desire of wanting to be one with another being, but just probably more in an unhealthy way. So that's something very interesting to see here. Another famous case of a person who has some strong Anuruddha nakshatra energy is that the chart of Jeffrey Dahmer. I had done a chart breakdown of him. If you're not familiar with that, go back on my channel and check that out. But in the same way, he wanted to be so close to his victims that he actually consumed them. And he would say it made him feel close to them. That's Anuruddha nakshatra. Now, this nakshatra is not always bad, so don't make that assumption. In fact, depending on certain planets and things, it's a very good nakshatra to have. People can be very friendly, very loyal friends, those type of things. But in certain contexts, it can make a person have a craving for wanting to be close to others at the expense of them not necessarily respecting the other person's boundaries, the other person's rights, those type of things. Now, we can also see here with Sun and Venus conjunction in Scorpio is that in regards to relationships and deals, the types of stuff Joe Biden would have been involved in, like politically, a lot of it would be stuff that was backroom deals, stuff that went on behind the scenes. There were secretive things going on and secret relationships and alliances forms. Obviously, we can see this even coming out with like some of the evidence of him having taken bribes from other countries, like China, Ukraine, these countries. That's something that we could see going on here in this first house in Anuruddha Nakshatra. Now, another really interesting thing to note is this Saturn and Uranus conjunction here, and the nakshatras this involves in, because we really see a story play out here. Now, keep in mind some of this analysis that I'm doing, the events or the things that I'm discussing are things that may not necessarily have been proven in court or whatever it is, but they're definitely things that have been rumored, have been heard, have been spoken about out in public in regards to Joe Biden. So when I'm doing the analysis, understand that I'm analyzing it from that perspective of these are why these things get brought up and discussed. So whether or not something is true or not, why do people even think this could be the case? This is what we're going to be getting into. So what we can see here is, Saturn being in Taurus, he could be a very disciplined person, like be very stable, because Taurus is an earth sign. It's symbolized by the bull, and Saturn is a very slow, long-moving planet. So you bring these two stable type of energies together, you're going to get a person who's very stable over a long period of time. He's going to have a very stable career. He'll be able to have stability in his sense of security and what he has going on in life. That will always kind of be there. Now, some very, very interesting things that we see once we start looking at both the planet Uranus here. So I really like to associate the outer planets with the Trimurti. Uranus being Vishnu, Brahma, Neptune being Vishnu, and Shiva being Pluto. So in the Vedic mythology, there's a specific myth about Brahma that actually deals with the nakshatras of Rohini, Mrigashira, and Ardra nakshatra. And in the mythology, Brahma lusts after his daughter, he has a daughter. She's very, very beautiful. And keep in mind, Brahma is the creator god. So he has this urge to create. It is the essence of his being is to create. So when he saw this other being and she was so beautiful, he was so enamored with her, he wanted to procreate with her. And even though it was his daughter, you have to understand it's not like a typical, in the mythology, it's not like a typical type of a thing. Brahma being the creator god who created everything, every being is his child in some way. So, this myth specifically, there's a lot of kind of hang-ups and dogma around it, even from India itself. But I think it's one that's very misunderstood, and that is something to keep in context. But regardless, this mythology of Brahma lusting after his daughter is there. And in the mythology, he chases her like a deer. This is Mrigashira nakshatra. So Rohini is known as the favorite wife. It's a nakshatra that is all about beauty, these type of things. So Saturn and Rohini, if he sees something beautiful, he's going to want to control it and possess it. Okay. Then, we see in Mrigashira, this is where Brahma gives chase. And in Ardra nakshatra, this is where Rudra, Shiva, actually cuts off one of Brahma's heads with an arrow. So there is this overall theme with Brahma that he essentially becomes criticized for lusting after his own daughter. Well, we have Uranus, Brahma, and it is in the Kritika nakshatra. Kritika is all about being critical. So it's something. It also symbolizes it's represented by like a sword or knife or blade. So you can see things coming into place here, like him even being cut off from a relationship with his daughter. Something his daughter has spoken about is some potential abuse that she might have experienced at his hands when she was younger. And he has been criticized for this. So we can see this theme playing out between, Uranus, Kritika, Saturn, Rohini, these nakshatras and these planets and going on the sign of Taurus. That's something he did. Now, keep in mind, this is something that's also being aspected by this first house. There's these aspects, these hidden Scorpio energy is going to be aspecting into his relationships and things like that. So the lust and things that may come in with that that Sun Venus in Scorpio in the Lagna, that's going to reflect into the seventh house. It's going to create some pressure. It might cause like people to even have to look back over, well, what are the actions that he's taken over a long period of time? Like I said, even his daughter, she was reflecting back on at a period of where I think she had mentioned she was like 12 years old or something like that. So that's a Saturn retrograde. It's a looking back at things. Even Uranus being retrograde, it's a looking back at previous actions. And even in the theme of like what's going on with the investigation into the whole Biden family, people are looking back at their actions. So we can see this going on with these retrograde planets here in the seventh house. Another interesting thing to note is that he has Rahu in the sign of Leo in Magha Nakshatra in the 10th house. Very much could see a politician from this. Not only does Leo deal with like a king, a government, presidents, these type of things, but Magha Nakshatra, which is the first nakshatra in Leo, it is symbolized by the royal, the royal like couch, so to speak. It's the royal throne. It very much is associated with leadership, government, royalty, authority, these type of themes. They are something we see very strong with Magha Nakshatra. Now, Rahu, being the north node of the moon, Rahu's like a nuclear bomb. He blows things up in a big way. So anytime you see Rahu in the 10th house, it's either going to make you famous or make you infamous. In Joe Biden's case, it might be both. Because Rahu's a shadow planet. It's illusion. So, he has had a long career in politics, and we can definitely see this from this Rahu and Magha in the 10th, that it's been something that's long lasted. He's had a very successful career in regards to that. But there's also probably this element of the trickster element coming in here. There's been some shadows, some illusions, some lies and things in regards to probably how he's been maintaining a lot of this power. The connections he's been making and things have been things probably done in secret deals, backroom deals. These type of things can be seen. Another thing to note is that he has Mars and Mercury in Libra in the 12th house. Mars-Mercury conjunction could definitely show someone that is very, very clever, very good at being able to figure out how to make money, acquire things they want, things like that, especially with Mercury being in Vishaka Nakshatra. He's going to be an extremely strategic person. Vishaka is an extremely goal-oriented, very strategic nakshatra. Now, something that is really interesting to note here is that Mars and Mercury being together, that's what's known as a Mangal Buddha yoga in Vedic astrology. It's, in short, it's the conjunction of Mars, Mercury. Those are just the names for Mars and Mercury in Jyotish. But whenever that happens, it can create issues with someone's speech occasionally, where Mars will speed up Mercury, so they get to speaking ahead of themselves, or they'll say things very, very quickly. In fact, I in fact have a Mars Mercury conjunction in my chart. There's a bunch of other planets there too, but that's something I have to kind of consciously remember to slow myself down sometimes. So what we can see here of it being in the 12th house of losses, that's something he'll spend a lot of time in his speech actually wasting time or effort just trying to get the message out, because he gets going so fast in his mind and he tries to say things so fast that he gets ahead of himself. He stutters. He has these type of things. And it's something that very much is going to have affected his sense of self, because we see the dispositor of Libra, of this 12th house, being in the first house. So there's going to be a strong connection between his speech impediment. And if you listen to some interviews with Joe, I think earlier on, like early 2000s, late 90s, that time period. I can't remember what interview I saw, but he was speaking about how as a child, and throughout his life, he's had to deal with speech impediment, stuttering, these type of things, and that was something that kids made fun of him for when he was younger, or it's just been something that's been a struggle for him, and it really did have an effect of his sense of self as an individual. Definitely can see that coming in here with this Mars Mercury in Libra in the 12th there. That would be something we very much can see. Another thing to note here is that directly across from Mars and Mercury is Moon in the sign of Aries and the Aslisha Nikshatra, or no, sorry, not Aslisha, Ashwini Nikshatra. Moon in Ashwini is going to be a person who can be very quick thinking, highly intelligent, these type of things, but also being that it's in regards to the sixth house of like karmas and service, these type of things, show that when it comes to resolving problems, being of service, he was a very reliable, quick thinking person that was willing to take action. Now, keep in mind the sleepy old man version of Joe Biden that we're all familiar with now as president. The vast majority of his career, he was not like that. That's recent. He has had a very, very long career in politics, and as a younger man, this definitely would have been a quality we can see. Now he has yoga specifically in his chart that can show problems coming in with age, with the mentality and these type of things. Specifically these being in a 6-12 axis as well, will show some of these things. Now, what does help is that the dispositor of Aries of the sixth house is Mars. So you have the dispositor aspecting it. That does help. But we're still going to see a thing going on here. And in regards to his speech impediment and how it could have affected his mentality, again, not only would it have impacted this first house here, but his sixth house. So it would have been a problem he dealt with. It could have been something that kind of emotionally upset him, that he's had to deal with this, where when people make fun of him for it, that definitely could have been something that as an individual kind of got him fired up. And, that makes sense. Nobody likes being made fun of for the way they speak or for anything really, So that's some very interesting things we can see here. Now, another one that I want to look at with this birth chart is that he has both Neptune and the Aruda Lagna in the 11th house in Virgo here. And the nakshatras these are in are very interesting. So Neptune a lot of times can be associated with scandals. And the nakshatra this is in Uttara Palguni. Now, Uttara Palguni bridges from the end of Leo into the beginning of Virgo. But it is all about relationships, creation, contracts, sexuality, sensuality, these type of things. It's all about things coming together in order to produce something and to bear fruit. The Palgunis nakshatras are all about bearing fruit. So we can see here is that not only has he had potentially like some sexual scandals and things come up in regards to him touching people, specifically young women, because we see Virgo here, so it's symbolized by a young maiden. That's something you could potentially see. But there's also scandals in regards to contracts, deals that have been made potentially with other countries, these type of things. And they're things that we're seeing on the world stage in this 11th house of the larger social network circle. Now, the Aruda Lagna in Hasta, it's very, very interesting to see here that, because something that people wonder is how could Joe have been so handsy with people through his whole career and not really had as many issues. And there were allegations and things, but it's never been anything that's actually stuck to him. It's because of this Aruda Lagna. The Aruda Lagna essentially is like the costume or the role that we're supposed to wear and play in this incarnation. And as we do that, it provides service to people. Well, his Aruda Lagna is in Hasta Nakshatra. Hasta Nakshatra is symbolized by the hands. So even though it kind of like, well, on one hand, it creeps a lot of people out. On the other hand, in a weird way, it actually plays to his benefit. The people that have worked with him are familiar, like, oh, have you got one of the, the Joe back rubs or the Joe touch? Some people are just um, physically affectionate people, and that doesn't mean they're all like, rapists or sexual predators or things like that. Some people just, that's the way they show affection. If they want to comfort someone, rubbing their back a little bit or giving them a pat on the back or, just giving them a hug, these type of things, a lot of people have that inclination towards that. Hasta can be that. So this was part of his Aruda Lagna, is to actually have people be aware of what he does with his hands. And that in a way has actually potentially contributed to his success, as weird as that can sound. And not in regards to like touching people in an unsolicited way is playing to his success. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying him being known for being a person that uses his hands for things, whether it's drafting. He was also very famous for helping write the crime bill, like the 94 Crime Act. Him and Clinton were really big into that. And he was one of the main people that wrote that contract. Well, this is an Aruda Lagna in Hasta Nakshatra. That was a major highlight in his career. And it also shows Uttara Palguni, which is contracts. So he was part of this one, writing this contract, writing this law, and that's part of his Aruda. But there's also there's some scandal going on around that, because that crime bill, as anyone who's familiar with knows, ended up locking up a lot of people, especially minorities in poor communities. That crime bill had more of an effect to destroy people in poor communities than many others have. So something we can see here. But he also, this is going on in his House of Gains, he gained a lot of recognition and a lot of political gout from that. So that was something that definitely empowered him as he went through his career. Now, some other things I want to look at here real quick, and just before I do, let me check the chat just to make sure I don't have anything going on here. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and pop this back up then. And there we go. Okay, so some other interesting things. That was just a general short introduction into his chart. Now, the title of this one, of this talk, I had titled that there are scandals and potentially like health issues, even death potentially ahead for Biden. Where I'm seeing this come in is from a variety of different areas. The first one being that the Mahadashas that he is going through. For those of you who are not familiar in Vedic astrology, one of the many tools that we use and we have access to are what are known as dasha cycles. Dasha cycles are planetary periods. And during these planetary periods, it's actually going to show which areas, which planets in our chart are going to be activated. Our chart contains all the karmas of our life. Naturally, these are not all activated or at play at once. It plays out over a period of time. The Mahadashas are the timing of the cycle of that. So if you want to look at major life events, you were getting married, you were getting a job, you're wanting to start a new career, have children, any of these type of like big things in life, Mahadashas are the area you really want to study, because that's going to show you when is that stuff likely to happen. Now, what we can see here, and where it says Vimshatori, that we have quite a few different dasha systems within Vedic astrology. Vimshatori is the most common one, so that's the one I use. I do use others sometimes, but depending on what I'm doing, but this is my standard one. Now we can see the first, where it says like Saturn, Mercury, Jupiter. The first one is what's known as the Mahadasha. The Mahadasha means it's Mahadasha. That Maha means great. So it's the great dasha. It's the overall cycle. Below that, we have what are known as, some people refer to them as subdashas or the bhukti, the ones below. So there are other planetary periods, but you have the overall theme, and then you have one that's a little bit less important and a little bit less important, so on and so forth. Now, what's very interesting to note here is that Joe Biden a few, at the beginning of the year was in his Jupiter Mahadasha, which was a very beneficial one for him because his Jupiter is actually exalted. It's in the ninth house where it's getting strength. He has a very strong Jupiter here. But what Saturn is doing when it activates is not so useful because it's activating the seventh house here, and the seventh house, while strong in regards to career and stuff, that whole scandal thing mentioned, these type of things that people are going to be looking back at his actions, that's going to get triggered. His relationships with other people in the world, these are getting brought out and they're being criticized because we see Kritika Nakshatra here. So before, where he might have been looked at very favorably through his career for a long time, now as the Saturn Mahadasha kicks off, it's something that's going to shift. Now, keep in mind, Dasha cycles are long periods of time. The Saturn Mahadasha is 19 years, so this is not just a quick, simple little thing that just happens over the period. This something takes time, but we can see that as this Mahadasha was activated, this criticism of him, these things have been coming to light, and it's only going to get stronger as we see it ramping up here. Through the month. And we're right now we're looking at Saturn, Mercury, Jupiter. So we're going to see Saturn is being affected, Mercury's being affected, Jupiter's being affected, and any houses that they rule. But then moving into it, we're going to be looking at Saturn, K2. Well, K2 is also going to be affecting his fourth house, which is his house of home. And it's in the sign of Aquarius, which deals with a larger social network circle. So we can see his home, the White House, is a place of a larger social network circle. And K2's there. Well, K2 can cut off our head. So this could be him leaving that home. And for a variety of reasons, whether he's leaving it because he's living and being forced to, or he's leaving it because he's left this incarnation, either one of those things could really be seen. Now, something else really, really big that I want to highlight, and I'm not going to get too far into this yet because I'm actually going to do when it gets a little bit closer to time, I'm going to do a more in-depth breakdown of this. But in regards to the effect of the upcoming eclipses on Joe Biden's chart. So he's going to be having these eclipses, both of them in October. One's going to be happening in his sixth house over his moon, which can deal with sickness, illness, these type of things. The other is going to be happening directly over his Mars. And that's something that very much can create some issues because it's going on in that the 12th house represents losses. It can even be, the ending of cycles, the end of life, these type of things. So seeing that eclipse go on there, in regards to that, and it happening, sun and moon, with Mars, with Mercury, we could see something going on. Personally, I think during that time, he's going to have some major medical emergency, especially like while he's traveling, because he actually is going to have Saturn wherever it's transiting is going to be across from Jupiter for him. So whenever he's traveling, there could be some dangers there. But like I said, these are things I'm actually going to do a specific chart analysis just looking on the effects of the eclipse, not only on his chart and why I see that excuse me, it's going to be bringing out scandals, these hidden 12th house things, deals that have went on in the back rooms with other countries, foreign countries, because the 12th house represents foreign lands. A lot of that stuff is going to get brought to light and exposed. So I not only see a huge potential for corruption, especially some sort of connection going on with China, because the leader of China has some interesting stuff going on in his chart with this eclipse coming up too. So I think there's some Biden-China connection coming out, but especially, and this is a big one I see, I think something major is going to happen with his health. I think there's going to be a major crisis, potentially even death. And then in this next video, I'll also look at the chart of Kamala Harris, because she would obviously be the next to go in line. So if something like that were to happen, it's also going to show up in her chart. Well, looking at her chart and the dasha cycle she has going on and stuff, this eclipse is also going to be hitting right on some very important placements for her. And it's actually going to be really affecting her first house, her Lagna. So we can see that not only does this eclipse look very dangerous for Joe Biden health wise, scandal wise, for a variety of reasons, but the way it's affecting Kamala's chart actually shows an uplifting or an uprising in her chart. So when we look at these two things together, maybe not looking so good for Joe on how things are coming out. But I wanted to kind of lay the foundations and do a first introductory video into his birth chart to look at that. And we'll continue to analyze it as things come out in the news, as these eclipses move closer. I'll do more in-depth analysis of his chart and things going on, as well as just for a general analysis of studying yogas in a chart. Because as I mentioned, Joe Biden has a massive amount of different yogas in his chart. For those of you who don't know, yogas are planetary combinations that whenever we see them in Vedic astrology, we know, oh, hey, this combination's going on. It's going to lead to this sort of result. Joe has a lot of them in his chart that all show he will have some sort of leadership, be very popular in government, politics, be the king of a country, president. That he has like not well over a dozen yogas that show and indicate that. So we can see where he had such a long, successful career in politics from studying these yogas. And it will be a very, very interesting chart to look at, not so much from just studying Joe Biden for that reason, but for studying yogas. His chart just happens to be an interesting one for that. So I'll also do an analysis of that down the road. If you guys are liking this and you do want to see more of these type of things, let me know in the comments below as well, and I can definitely do some stuff. Or if there's any specific leader or person's chart that you want me to look at, so long as it's like a famous person that's kind of out there in the open for everybody already, I don't mind looking at charts like that. One other thing I do want to note here, though, because even though on a lot of this analysis I may have hit on some more, for lack of a better term, negative interpretations, that's simply because I'm relating it to what people are going to be able to be familiar with in regards to what we see in the news, these type of things. And these are things that we see in his birth chart. That being said, keep in mind that even if someone has things like this in their birth chart, you can't make all your final conclusions from that. You want to look at the divisional charts to see the strength of things and how they play out. In fact, like just as a quick example, in his D10 in the Dashamsha chart of Great Success, we see that, well, they have Sun Venus together in the birth chart, same in the D10, same in the Navamsha, same in the Shatamsha. We can see that over and over again, he has the Sun Venus together. So we can see these planets, in regard, we can see some major karma there in regards to relationships and how he was going to behave in those. But he also has a lot with all these yogas. He has amazing yogas in his chart for success in his life, and he has been an extremely successful person in his career. I mean, he did make it to not only be a senator for a very long time. He was the vice president of the United States for 8 years, and then he's now the president of the United States. That's something someone has to have a lot of very good karma, very powerful karma in their chart to be able to come into positions like that. His chart is definitely one of those. So as much as we can see some things that we could look at in regards to analyzing scandals and stuff, there's also a lot of strength and really good things to analyze in this chart as well. And especially as we go through and look at his divisional charts, these type of things, even his Navamsha here, very interesting things going on here where we see some strong support of, both in his like D10 and the Navamsha, Sun Venus in the 11th house and in the sign of Leo. So, I mean, really some strength going on there in regards to that position. Jupiter being in Cancer again and moving from the 9th to the 10th. So it's Virgotama. Anytime a planet's in the same sign throughout multiple charts, it just shows the strength and the karma of that planet becomes stronger and stronger the more charts you see that repeated in. So he has a lot of very, very good charts. Keep in mind, though, we all have karma, and how we choose to use it in each in each incarnation is totally up to us. Now, he probably hasn't used his in the most effective way possibly in this one, but there's lessons that his soul is going to gain from that. So, a lot of very interesting things to see here. And again, as we get into looking at this eclipse that's coming up, or both of them come in October, really going to see some major things going on with how this is going to affect his chart. So like I said, I'll do a future chart breakdown where I look at not only his chart in regards to the eclipses coming up and the events that are happening, but I'll go ahead and look at Camilla's with his, so we can see not only how his chart is showing scandal and falls and some areas where he's going to have major tests and struggle, but it'll show where she has some karmas where there can be an uplifting for her. Some good things can be coming her way in regards to her elevation and position, how she's seen in the world. These type of things can be going on. So this year, and I'll say, I've said this before as I've been doing these recent transit videos and things, astrologically, there's some very, very powerful things going on right now. And as this year continues to go forward, we're only going to see more and more intensity come about. Now, these eclipses, I really think, are going to be some major culmination points where we see a lot of this energy come up, for worldwide things. But there's going to be worldwide events that get shaken up, things that get stirred, that are happening in that month of October, especially. So really pay attention to that. And big things are coming out the rest of this month. And then going into August and September, there's going to be a lot of processing of these events. And then in October, more things are going to get shaken up. More secrets are going to be revealed. So keep in mind what I'm saying in this video. And as we go through future events and things happen, pop back on, watch this one, and you'll be able to see what I was talking about as a lot of these things come into manifestation. So let me go ahead and check the chats here, make sure I don't have any questions at all. And if you guys do have any questions at any time, feel free to always just type them in the chat. I'll always check them before I hop off and end the live. That way I can answer anything that you guys do have. But that's some stuff that we can see from analyzing Joe Biden's chart. Like, definitely overall some themes that we can see in regards to, secrets, scandals, hidden things. But especially as the transits are going to be coming up, those eclipses, the way they're going to be affecting his chart is going to be hitting in such a major way that personally, I don't think he will be making it very much longer past that, whether that is as a live sitting president or as just even in this incarnation at all. There's some very strong indicators in his chart that he's going to have some very serious health issues that he's going to have to deal with. So that'll be something interesting to analyze. And if you guys do want to see that sooner than later, just let me know in the comments and I'll go ahead and move that video up on schedule. So let me check one more time. Or actually, let me go ahead and remind you guys too. If you guys are wanting to learn how to do astrology yourself, learn how to use this not only in your own life for studying your own chart, but being able to study other people's charts, I recommend checking out my foundational Vedic astrology courses. They're free. All you have to do is enter your email and it will send you an email with the link to download those. So you can just scan the QR code here or use the link in the comments for that. Check my chat one more time. Make sure there's no questions. Nope, I think I'm good to go there. So thank you for tuning in, guys. I hope this was useful for you. And like I said, let me know in the comments whether or not you enjoyed this. And I will see you in the next video.